Hey, welcome back. This is video number 4 in the creating a Gatsby blog page from scratch. And I'm going to try and make this the last one, keep it around 20 minutes like I've been doing, 25 minutes. Um, it's not going to be a finished product, but it should be enough to give you a foundation for styling. I'm gonna go as in-depth as possible, as quickly as possible. And I'll also leave a link to the repo so you can kind of see like where I'm headed from here, and if you need a reference for like the Gatsby node or template or file structure or things like that, then definitely feel free to look. And of course, if you've got questions, just hit me up in the comments. That's fine. I'll definitely look out and do the best that I can to answer them for you. So what we're gonna do in this last video is a little bit of styling, a little bit of configuration with the syntax of MDX. We'll try and set up like a little blog preview on the front page so we can actually link to our posts without having to type them in. And we'll see how much we can get done in about 20 minutes. So let's start first with figuring this p tag situation out. So as we saw in the last video, that's just going to render like everything that's going on behind the scenes in addition to our text, and we don't want that. We just want the body to display. So I'm going to start the dev server here by running Gatsby develop. And what we're going to need is something called the MDX renderer. And what this will do is it'll take all of our MDX, all of our Markdown, and it'll render it for us so that it looks normal. And we can use the Markdown syntax to do a little bit of styling, so we can actually clean this piece up a little bit as well. So I imported the MDX renderer from Gatsby plugin MDX, which we already have installed. And by the way, I'm still on my blog posts branch here. So just make sure, you might have to run like an npm install or yarn if you were flipping between branches and haven't installed everything. But Gatsby plugin MDX has already been installed. And so now if I reload this and if I go to /never-say-never, remember it gives us all this mess. But if I swap out these p tags for MDX renderer and then hit save, now it's way better. So these are all p tags, so that's not exactly what we want, but I'll show you how to go ahead and style that. So speaking of the syntax, what we can do here is I'm on a page in Gatsby adding components to Markdown with MDX where it says customizing Markdown components. And it's got this nice table here for the syntax that you can use in your Markdown files. So I can actually get rid of this. And in my Markdown file, I'll just follow along with this syntax. So the title is never say never. So if I do a hashtag and then a space and then never say never, I'll flip back over to the local host. So notice that it's never say never and then it's lowercase. Now I've title cased it and put a hashtag. So now it's an H1. Cool. If I look back at this blog post, there's this quote is italicized and there's some bold. So let's take a look at that table. Italics would be emphasis and bold would be strong. So to italicize something, you put these little underscores. So let's do that before and after the quote. And if we watch this quote here and hit save, it goes to italics. Nice. And then there's no way in hell you'd ever get me a step foot in a CrossFit gym. So that, if we look at our table, is 2 stars before and after. So let's do 2 stars before, 2 stars after, and then step foot before and after. And if I hit save, cool. So that takes care of all of it for me. So I'm going to have to let Paige know about this syntax stuff so that I don't have to go in and edit everything manually every time. But that's a pretty powerful tool. So already seeing the power of Markdown here. Remember, I said we chose MDX just in case we want to have like a component in here. So maybe at the bottom, like we drop in a form or something like that. All you would do is the same, you know. So say I had like a component. What component? So I got a header. So let me see if I can show you how to do this real quick. So if I import header from / components / header, and let's see if I put it at the top. Header. Field slug. Okay, real quick. So if I go to slug is not defined by MDX. Oh, because I deleted it on accident. Whoops. So I deleted my front matter here on accident. So definitely want to make sure that you don't do that. So if I go up here and I do import header, yikes, from / components / header, oops, not that, / header, and then let's see if I put it above here and refresh. Oh, it shut down the server on me there. So just hitting Gatsby develop one more time. Let's see what error I'm getting here. Cannot query slug. Okay, so front matter needs to be on top. And let's try one more time. Seeing some successes, so that's always a good sign. And now let's refresh. And you can see that purple header at the top. So remember, we got rid of like the stuff in here, which is fine. But just showing you if there were a component that you wanted to add somewhere, then you'd have your front matter, and then underneath that you'd have your import relative to your file. So we're in posts. We do .. to go up to our source, go back into components, and then header. So if you had some other sort of component that you wanted to include in all of your posts, or even just one of your posts, then that's how you'd do it. You'd import it, and then you'd add the component wherever you want it. All right, next thing that we're going to do, so that was some styling. I'm getting rid of that because we don't want a random purple bar. The next thing is I'm going to shut down the server, and we're going to see how to use images with this Gatsby remark images. So following with the installation docs here, I'm using yarn. You can use npm if that's what you've been using. I'm going to yarn add Gatsby remark images. We want to make sure Gatsby source file system is installed, which we already have in our Gatsby config, pointing to both images and posts. And we already have the MDX plugin as well. So what we're going to do, notice that this example assumes your images and markdown pages are sourced from the same directory. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. So notice they only have one file system. We have two. So all that's going to impact is how we import our images. So in our Gatsby plugin MDX, we already have a default layout option after the comma, after this closing curly brace here. I'm going to do Gatsby remark plugins, set that to an array, and then inside of that array, so the remark plugins array is an array of objects here, or just one object, which we're going to resolve Gatsby remark images, which is what we just installed. And then the options here are in the docs. It is an option. I'm going to do it anyway just because it's here in the documentation. And we'll set max width to 1200. Okay, awesome. And then what we'll do is follow this syntax. So for an image, we'll have the exclamation point with curly, or excuse me, square brackets with our like alt, and then the path to our file. Let's see if it's in this table here. Yeah, so an image. Yep, exactly. So exclamation point, alt, and then the path to the file. Notice though we had different directories. So if I click on this, we have our two directories. We have posts and images. And so all that means is we need to go up a directory and back down into images when we're finding it. So let me show you what I mean. I've got this image. So notice there's a couple of like memes and stuff here. I found one that's kind of in the same sort of vibe. So Paige was like, I don't know about CrossFit. It doesn't seem like it's going to be super cool. I don't think I'm going to fit in. There's going to be a bunch of like muscly bros there and stuff. So I found one that looked what I thought to fit into that vibe there. And so here's how we'd go about importing it just somewhere in line. So notice that all of this is just text. So let's see. I had the picture of the stereotypical CrossFitter in my head. So let's find that line here. I had the picture. So I'm going to go in between here. And remember, it's exclamation point and then square brackets for our alt tag. So we'll say gentlemen in bathing suits. And then the path goes in parentheses. So we'll do ... / because we're in this post, but we want to go into images. So post ... / go up a directory and then back down into images and then /legday.jpg. Save, and then let's start our server back up. Gatsby develop. And so now that everything's back up and running, sweet. So now we have our inline image. On that day, not a single leg was trained. So that's a way. So now we've learned how to style our text, and we've learned how to add images into Markdown. If I were going to make a new post, so Paige does have a second post here. So 12 pieces of advice. So let's just add that real quick. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but do 12 pieces of advice. And I'm just going to, .mdx. So rename, go to the end, .mdx. I'm just going to copy the front matter here. And the slug is going to be 12 pieces of advice. And then I'll just copy this here, paste it in, hit save. And then let's do our Gatsby develop again. And now if I go back to localhost, and then if I type in that 12 pieces of advice, now that's here. So we've got our two posts. It just automatically creates it for us, which is super, super nice. Okay, so now want to add some sort of like little link situation down here. So what we'll do is we'll just map through our posts, and we'll just render them. We'll render each one as a link. So we can actually use this use static query here, and go underneath our background image. And what we'll do, we'll find the end of this. So this is our background image. We'll go into all MDX. We'll grab the nodes. We'll grab our front matter with the title, author, whoops, title, author, and slug. And then what we can do here is we can, underneath our background image, open up a set of curly braces, and we'll do data dot all MDX dot nodes dot map, and then for each post we'll return, and notice that I've got parentheses there for an implicit return. And let's do a link, and then let's make sure we have link import. Yeah, we do. Link is from Gatsby, so we'll do 2 equals post dot slug, and then the name of the link we'll do post dot title. And let's take a look. All right, not seeing anything just yet. Let's see if we wrap this in an H2 and see if that was our issue. Still not seeing anything here. Let's take a look and see if we're getting any errors. Scroll up. So a couple of warnings. There's an error. 2 is marked as required in Gatsby link, but its value is undefined. Post.slug. Oh, because we forgot front matter. Okay, so if I go to post.front matter for each of those. Sweet. Now we're getting never say never twice. I think I didn't update. Let's see if I didn't update this one. Slug 12 pieces of advice. Oh, I see. I'll show you here in a second. So I'm going to update this title to 12 pieces of advice before your first CrossFit class, and notice that it changes. The reason that that was happening is because we have the title here, and the title was still the same. So now if I click on this link, never say never, it takes me there. 12 pieces of advice. Sweet. So that is looking better. I know I'm going over a little bit over 20 minutes, but I want to try and get a few more loose ends tightened up here. So on our blog post template, toward the bottom, let's do one more thing here, a link. And we'll do link 2 equals slash. So this is just going to send us home. And we'll do, let's do and left arrow. So ampersand LARR semicolon will give us a little left arrow icon, and then we'll do back to home page. And so now at the bottom, back to home page for us. So that's good. Let's give us a little bit of spacing on this blog post. So if we go to our layout component, let's see. So this is our layout component. We have the theme provider, the page container, and then the child container. Let's see if we just give ourselves some padding, like 1 rem around the side. Cool. So that's giving us a little bit of breathing room. If we go back, notice that that does impact our banner. If that's not something that you want, then it's just that's because our layout is wrapping our background image. So you could, for example, do like, I could drop this down to, or actually what I could do is I could like make this, instead of a layout, I could do a div here. And now that layout styling is not applied to this home page, but then if I go here, notice that I do have the spacing, and that's because in our Gatsby config, we have the default layout component here. So we actually already took care of that for ourselves. We could do in our layout, our child container, like our H1s could be text align center. And that takes care of that for us. So what I'm doing here is I'm styling this child container, which any children that are inside of it will be styled. So that means anything that I wrap with the layout tag, which I've done in our blog post here, layout, will be styled with this child container styling. And so instead of styling each individual blog post, I'm styling this layout component, which then will pass down to the child container, which is pretty convenient. But notice that I don't have the layout applied here. Instead, I just have a div so that if I go back to my home page, it doesn't have that same styling. Let's go ahead. Actually, let's switch this to an H3. And then above this, we'll say H2 blog posts. And let's wrap this real quick. We can style componentize this little section down here. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. I like to do mine in the same page, so I'll do const blog preview equals, I need to import styled from styled components at the top. I'm not using image or layout, so I can get rid of those. And I'll import styled from styled components. And so now at the bottom, I'm just going to create a wrapper for this little section. So what I'll do is blog preview equals styled dot div. And then let's do display flex direction column justify content center and align items center. So I'll save that. Nothing has happened yet because I haven't wrapped the content in blog preview. So all I'll do here is above blog posts, I'll do blog preview, and then I'll grab this closing tag and I'll paste it at the bottom. And now this styling is going to apply to everything in between. I hit save, and there we go. If I want to give it a little bit of space off of that header, let's do like padding 2 rem. You won't notice it here, but it gave it some extra room to the side as well. So if I were to like bring this down, it's still got the space to the siding because of the padding applying in all directions there. All right, so I'm going to continue working on this, but between the setup with Gatsby Node and our template file here and the Gatsby plugins with MDX and our file system and all of that stuff, we're actually all set up to go. The last thing that I'm going to show so I said this was going to be the final video. This will be the final video for styling. The last thing I'm going to show you is a little bit more configuration for how to get this up and running using your own custom domain and getting it hosted for free. So you can host it for free on Netlify. You can get a free domain on Netlify if you want, but it'll have the .netlify subdomain, like you'll have a subdomain on Netlify's domain, so like whatever.netlify.com. But I'll show you how to hook up your own custom domain if that's something that you want to do as well. So I have a custom domain already. I'll show you how to get this set up in that final video. So that'll be a little bit quicker to hopefully make up for the extra time in this video. So this was number 4, and I'm gonna keep on going in the final video, showing you how to get this up and running so that the whole world can see your beautiful project. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the last video.